Hello and welcome back to Just Thought You'd Like to Know podcast. So today's episode is all about burnout, something that's become really incredibly common among professionals, business owners, and leaders around the world. Now, burnout doesn't usually happen overnight, it creeps up on us. We start feeling a little more tired, a little less motivated, and before long, we're running on empty, really understanding why. Recently, I came across an article by Shruti Nair, a project manager from Kerala in India, called Breaking the Burnout Cycle. One thing she wrote really stood out to me. Burnout happens to people who care. It's often the most dedicated and passionate people who end up pushing themselves too hard for too long. But if burnout has become a global problem, how do we actually tackle it? So, my guest today is Kelli Cullen Jr., a motivational speaker whose work focuses on people power through simplicity. Kelli runs group self empowerment programs called Yummy, which stands for Yoga, Understanding, Meditation, Movement, and You, and helps people reconnect with themselves, build resilience, and create healthier, more balanced lives. So, today we're going to talk about why burnout is so common, how wellness practices like movement, exercise, and yoga can help, and why sometimes the simplest changes have the biggest impact on our energy, mindset, and overall well being. So, if you ever felt overwhelmed, exhausted, or likely that you're constantly running on autopilot, this is going to be a really valuable conversation. So, Kelli, welcome to the podcast. It's so lovely to have you here.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good. Very excited. Very excited.
I know. So, we're here at the Acorns Gym in Lordswood in Kent. And I believe it has been completely transformed recently. So, I've been a member since 2016, so 10 years. So I've seen the changes that have gone through. So for our audio listeners, the podcast will be available on YouTube. So I'll share visuals of the gym so you'll be able to see the changes. But do you want to quickly talk through what's the investment that's?
Well, it's been huge, really. I think we're probably always have been one of Medway's best kept secrets, and we've always had a really, really good gym. We've always had a really lovely gym, and now what's happened is we've had a whole new floor built, which is a lot of functional movement. We've got some high rocks bits and pieces going on in there, which is amazing. It's obviously huge at the moment. I mean, from my personally with the high rocks, literally today, my niece is in Stockholm to go and do the World Championships, so I'm like really invested in it, but. More importantly, really, it's trying to get people in because we're a very accessible gym and becoming a little bit more accessible as far as those high-end bits and pieces that you might not be able to do if you're not part of a big corporate gym.
Yeah.
So we're bringing in a lot of wellness practices like the sound baths and all of those sort of really, really lovely, yummy things that people like doing. And we're doing a lot more yoga. I mean, the loft itself looks absolutely brilliant, but we've got a gorgeous wellness space out called the Garden Suite out there now, where we do our sound studio and all of those things. And even venturing into now teaching level 3 personal training courses. So we've got those going on here as well. It's a huge, quite scary. Well, not quite isn't the word. Very scary. I've been here for 14 years myself, and most of us who have been here for that long. And it's a huge change to what we're used to. It really is.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that. I mean, having come here for the past 10 years and having worked with yourself in many of the different classes as well, I always saw that there was always potential for the gym to get bigger, but of course it's funding. And then when you've got these commercial enterprises opening up down the road, and it's so hard to stay competitive. But I think what makes this gym so special is the members and the staff know each other so well. And it's so, positive because, I always come after work, and then having seen an improvement in the space, it really makes you want to, again, sometimes you do have to force yourself to come.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that's what we're talking about today. Because burnout is a word that we hear all the time now. And from your perspective, what is burnout?
Burnout is pretty much a disconnect with yourself. Really, it's where somebody has been go, give, and doesn't take the time or understand that they need to recharge and give back to themselves. It can be emotional, it can be physical, but under every single circumstance, when you know you've got to address it. It is so important that you take the time to try and address it, because it can be incredibly dangerous and really debilitating.
Yeah, because I think that stems quite nicely into the next question, which was, do you think they only realise once they're already deep into it? Because do you think people actually recognise burnout in themselves?
Do you know what I think the issue is with recognizing it in the first place? And this is a sort of an observation that I've made, is we've become a culture where to become tired is a lot more lauded and a lot more sort of applauded than actually sort of saying, I'm going to step back and take some time away. And I do find it very difficult to explain to people, especially people that are leaders in their field and people that are sort of go, 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 and really, I mean, there's nothing wrong with chasing the achievement, but trying to turn that around to chasing a little bit of fulfillment at the same time is really difficult when it is this huge round of applause for being the most tired person in the room.
Yeah.
And so initially we mistake that tiredness for achievement.
Yeah.
I must be doing it right because I'm absolutely shattered. And then suddenly you're biting everybody's head off, which tends to be one of the first things.
Yeah, no, that's a really interesting take, because you see it in a corporate sense in a field, oh, he's done some late hours in the office. Oh, he stayed late last night. And you'll think, oh, you should be rewarded for it. But then again, I think that's where you just don't recognize the burnout has started. Do you think technology and being constantly connected have made it harder for people to switch off as well?
I think there's no way escaping that it has. I think technology is amazing, and it also has a lot of functions there that can lend really, really well to wellness and looking after yourself. But it's knowing how to use it. Well, I think we've spoken previously about the sleep coaching and all
Yeah.
that kind of thing that I did. And one of the biggest things that I've done, which is so hard to do, and I didn't understand how hard I was going to find it, considering I do this as a job, was I have like a plug-in station that I leave downstairs, and I will not have my phone or any technology once I go to bed.
Yeah.
I won't have it upstairs. I won't have it anywhere near me. And I felt bereft.
Yeah.
I was like, oh gosh, it really feels like a massive thing to do.
It
And
does,
when
yeah.
did it become such a massive thing to do? I think a lot of it becomes such a habit, and it's so mindless sometimes. And someone who is suffering burnout will reach for something that's mindless
Yeah.
because the brain gets a chance to kind of stop and not really think about it. And the technology is built to support your belief system because of algorithms and things like that. So you're also getting like this little hug as well at the same time. And who doesn't want that? But yeah, it has made it a lot more difficult. And that instant gratification thing is also having a massive effect as well.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I think in terms of, it's just those small changes you think are going to make a big difference. So, the distance that you keep your phone away from your bed and everything
Yeah.
like that, and you feel like it's a huge change.
But I was so shocked about how I felt about it.
Yeah.
It felt and then I thought I'd be a bit clever, and I put my phone downstairs. But I thought, oh no, like iPad will be fine.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't. It all had to stay downstairs, and it was a huge shift for me. It was a huge shift, considering that I go to bed very early. I get up very early. I thought I'd established that pattern, or I was having problems with sleep at the time. But yeah, it has, and I think there is scope there for people to start going and teaching in schools how to use it sensibly. I saw a guy the other day who was on Instagram who is now going into schools, and he is doing just that and teaching obviously how to be safe to teenagers online and how to notice certain aspects of sort of unhealthy behaviors, but also modifying how we're using it. And then within a day after seeing that, they banned it for under 16, so I'm not quite sure what he's going to do now. But it's a double-edged sword, definitely.
So, in terms of, if we are able to sort of distance ourselves from technology, what, from your experience, is where it comes in now? Like, what role does yoga or mindfulness play in helping people recovering from burnout? So, what would you say are the first key steps to someone recognizing and then going on to tackle that?
Yeah, I mean, you can't do anything about something you don't acknowledge. And the first thing is to really, once you realize something is happening, is to not give yourself a hard time about it first, because that's the first thing we do is we go, well, I must be weak or I must be this. And that happens with men and women at the same, we all do that.
Yeah.
And is to say, okay, it's how am I really, really feeling right now? what if I had to sit down and sit with it for 5 minutes and have a piece of paper in front of me, if I wrote down what is going on inside, and what those feelings are, if I wrote them down, would they frighten me? You know? And as I said, the first sign oftentimes is lack of patience, is one of the first things that we notice, but also a readiness to sort of feel cry. But paradoxically, there's also this inability to feel joy as well, which is awful. And this emotional disconnect, which sometimes can also be what we think living is like. You know, oh, it's just life and stuff like that, and it isn't. As far as yoga is concerned, and really it's as far as the reason I like yoga is because it gives you a platform, it gives you a structure. For me, it isn't about the physicality, and anyone who does my classes knows that my focus is very much about being in the breathing and slowing everything down. And essentially, whether you decide to do yoga or whether you decide to do mindfulness, your aim really is to slow things down and take those moments to come out of the emotional you into a part of you that can see a little bit clearer about your choices. And 9 times out of 10, if you are in burnout, it is really, really difficult to slow your own self down because you're scared of what is going to happen in your head. But I think the ability to connect back with yourself, the ability to bring awareness to what you're feeling, the ability to then be able to make a plan going forward is what yoga and, to be honest with you, mindfulness more so. I mean, I taught mindfulness in schools, and what's really sad about it now is I used to say to teenagers, and I dealt with specifically teenagers that were really having quite a problematic time. I'd say, oh, you know, right, we're going to talk a little bit about mindfulness, and you could hear the eyeballs rolling. You were like, they're so sick of hearing the word. And that's really sad, because the reason you're hearing the word everywhere is because it works, you know, and slowing things down just on its own can be really, really quite difficult to do. So when you then channel that into something like yoga, you then have an intention and an aim as well as having that moment to slow things down.
No, that's brilliant. I mean, I know there's so much that we could talk about here, but would you say, some simple wellness habits that can make a big difference without completely changing someone's lifestyle? Because you spoke about people being scared to address that issue with burnout and feeling scared that they, they would have to take drastic changes or anything. But is there any simple wellness habits that can make a big difference?
I think I know that fear is there, but initially that 5 seconds or 5 minutes a day where you sort of go, okay, I'm going to take some breaths. How do I feel? What am I really feeling right now? And then address it. And another thing that's really important, and that you find that people that don't necessarily suffer from burnout, they have something that they find joy in away from what is causing the stress. Because stress itself can be a very, very positive thing, but after a little while it turns into more of an anxiety thing. And anxiety is never ever positive. There's nothing positive about anxiety. And if you can just take a few minutes a day to diversify into something that has nothing to do, that is all about you, that has nothing. The problem is what we tend to do is we do that on our phones. The time we say we don't have any time is, well, how much time are you spending on your phone? And it sounds, there's no magic pill for it really, but it does start with becoming acutely aware of what your system, what your central nervous system is trying to tell you. Because your central nervous system will start trying to give you warning signs first, and then your physical body will go, okay, if you're not going to do anything about this, I'm going to do this. And maybe you'll listen to that. You don't need to get to that point. But yeah, there's the little things I would say, probably not picking up your phone for an hour after you get up in the morning is huge. Allow yourself a few moments to remember who you are and why you're doing what you do. Look a little bit maybe into sleep patterns if you're not, if you've got the time to have a look at your environment when you're asleep. See if it's neutral, see if it's sleep friendly. Also, there's, and I don't tend to really want to talk about specific yoga positions, but if you can get onto the floor and do a little bit of cat-cow, that sort of, that really wakes up, kind of, that is where the central nervous system is.
Yeah.
That's really helpful. Cat-cow for a few seconds in the morning, breathing in one position and breathing out on the other. That can reset your brain just a little bit. So although there's a lot of things there, the thing I would suggest first is to spend a couple of minutes a day, as I said. What are you feeling? And whatever you're feeling, see if you can address that. See, and if you need to speak to somebody else, find that person out, seek that person out. That would be the first thing I would suggest.
I think that's the thing. I think we're so quick to, I think the force of habit in terms of, getting up and the first thing you're turning off your alarm. And where's the alarm set? On your phone. And then you're thinking, oh, alarm set, and then you see a notification of something that's popped up.
That's it, you're there, aren't you?
And then you're there, turning off that, switching off that alarm. But we were talking about sleep patterns previously before we started recording. Do you set an alarm, or do you actually
I do, but what I have is, and it's been brilliant. I wouldn't have said it would be such a game changer if I hadn't learned about it myself. I bought a sleep wake alarm.
Okay.
So part of the reason people struggle with their sleep, and if you are really going to invest in something as far as kind of yourself, your first step is always going to be look at sleep. Everything else is going to be difficult if you don't get your sleep. And that's really hard because people who struggle with sleep instantly feel disconnected when you say that.
Yeah.
And it's so awful. And I do understand it, having dealt with it before. But it's a sleep wake light that works with the circadian rhythm, which is the rhythm, because I think officially when it goes dark, we're meant to be asleep. So you think how that works in the winter. I think we're supposed to hibernate. That is the way that my brain works. But we don't do that, and we can't do that. And then we wonder why we're dealing with mental health, and we're dealing with things like that. We're living in a way that maybe we're not supposed to live.
Yeah.
But the sleep wake light was excellent, was an investment, but it was really good. So what happens I set my alarm, it's away from my bed for a start. And like I said, I don't have my phone or anything anywhere near me. And about half an hour before you set the alarm, the light starts coming on and starts mimicking sunrise.
Oh, okay.
And so if I'm really lucky, I'll wake up about 20 minutes before my alarm goes off, and my room is like this beautiful red orange colour.
Oh, okay.
And it just slowly introduces, even while you're asleep, this imitation of sunrise. And then when it's ridiculous time that I get up in the morning, I get up at 5, when that goes off, it's set to birds. Basically, it sounds like birds outside. So that is my alarm. And that was purely something I did because I knew that sleep was something that was so vitally important. You think about sleep, it's an hour and a half. The first hour is about physical rebuilding and recovery. That last half an hour is about getting your ducks in a row up here. So if that is too disturbed, both of those things are going to be affected, and then you will be burnt out.
Yeah.
But that light. So yeah, I do have an alarm, but I keep it away from the bed.
Okay.
My partner doesn't, however. My partner has his right there. So, but it was a commitment I made to myself. So yeah, it's brilliant. It's really good. I suggest those.
I think sleep is just so important. And
sleep, and obviously as a personal trainer and coach and stuff, this is something that I talk about a lot. Sleep and weight loss, hugely connected, massively connected. They really are. Your body has to feel safe in order to let some of those things grow, let the calories go. Otherwise, it's just going to hold it around your middle to protect your heart and lungs and things. That's a very simplistic way of looking at it. But yeah, I think, and the problem is it isn't big and it isn't sexy, and it, and it requires, so a lot of people find that their actual life that they're looking forward to is after work. So they try to make that time as long as they possibly can, understandably, and it makes complete sense. But sleep is the most important thing that you can do for yourself, but it's not always as easy as that.
No.
Yeah.
Because I think my next question is, if listeners remember just one thing from today's conversation, what would you say it's likely to be like the one thing that you would want listeners from a professional environment? What would you say they should really take away from today's podcast?
Give yourself a break. Give yourself a break. This is a normal human thing. Your central nervous system has taken on billions of pieces of information since you were conceived. Your reaction to things are your reaction to things. It is valid. It matters. It is important. No one can walk in your shoes. It should never be diminished. And just because one person reacts one way and someone else reacts some way different, shouldn't be any judgment there. Give yourself a break. Invest in yourself. Be sustainable for you.
Yeah, I think that's really important, because you one of the things is you end up making comparisons with your own life.
Comparison is the joy. It really is. Yeah. Judgment is so fruitless, and so we try to empathize, but we can never walk in someone else's shoes.
Exactly.
And validating and holding space for people is probably the most important thing that we can do for people that we love and that we care about.
Yeah.
And to listen, and not just listen to give the clever answer, but listen to understand. Because when a person speaks, the truth of everything that they are feeling tends to come after the word but or however.
Yeah.
So there's a video of me saying this to a group of teenagers that says, if whatever somebody says, if someone says I love you but, ignore the I love you, focus about what comes after the but or however. And that's truth. And in personal training and in coaching, that is a very serious thing, because someone will say, well, I want to do this thing, but this and this. So you've got to ignore, what the goal is, but you've got to ignore that. So that's why we've really got to listen actively, because we'll go off on a tangent about what we think the answer is. Oh, I know the answer to this, I know the answer to this, and then you lose whatever comes at the end.
Yeah.
And whilst what you're saying might be helpful, it may not be useful. And there's a difference between the two things.
Brilliant. Because it moves us on to sort of, let's speak about you, and a lot of your work today is focused on self-empowerment and helping people find their own strength.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about the journey that led you to this work? So you've spoken publicly now about losing your son, Mikey, after his battle with neuroblastoma.
Yeah.
So looking back, how did that experience change the way that you view life and mental well-being?
I think it made me acutely aware of how important it is to know what you are feeling in order to be a version of yourself that you can look at in the mirror in the morning. So me before, completely different person to me now, and that's understandable. But I mean as in the way I made decisions was different. My accountability was none at all. I'm very much in a victim mentality. I felt the world owed me something. And you'd think having a situation where a child is diagnosed with cancer and eventually passes away, I wanted to make sure that his legacy wasn't at that it wasn't going to be that. And having had so much input from mental health services as well, quite acute situations with mental health services as well, really needed to know where I was at in space all of the time to protect me, because he thought I was the best thing since sliced bread, and obviously I must be a bit of all right if that's the case. And it grew from more than wanting to be someone that he'd be proud of, because he was, so that wouldn't have mattered. But this is where I probably will get a bit, I said to you before, sometimes I'm okay about the
you say it's hard.
Emotional, but the night he died, one of the very last things he said was, "Is my mum going to be okay?" So it became really important that I was okay. And he was so brave. He knew. We didn't know he was going to pass away. We didn't know.
Okay.
It just one night we were all there, me, his dad, and his stepmom. We were all there. That had never happened before. We were all at my house. We'd all decided to be there the night before. And he said some things that night where we were all together, and one of them was that. And without going too far into it, the first feeling I felt when he passed away that night, which is, people are either going to understand this or not, after 4 years of seeing the pain and everything that little boy had been through from the age of 4 to the age of 8 and being completely helpless, was this relief.
Mm.
It was relief, because I knew what was going to happen. I knew how this was ending now. I knew.
Mm.
And then, if anybody had seen me that first 6 months after he passed away, I think most people thought, yeah, she's all right. What's she got? Look at her. She's done really well. She's brilliant. She's doing really well. And then it hit me what a symptom of feeling that relief was, because I hadn't put the dots together that relief was also accompanied by the fact that he wasn't coming back.
Mm.
That hadn't hit me in that first 6 months. I didn't have and when that did hit me, I ended up, for the second time over that process, in front of the doctor saying, if you don't help me, I'm going to kill myself.
Mm.
And at that moment, in my head, I heard myself say it. And then I heard him say, is my mum going to be all right?
Mm.
And I've strived from that point to initially be really present and understand what I'm feeling and be really good to myself and kind to myself, but also hold myself accountable.
Mm.
And keep my standards and my boundaries. And I've lapsed on that, and I've gone up and I've gone down, and I've had one other really acute issue with mental health since then as well, which was just after COVID. And that was more because I've been quite strict on myself. I got militant on myself about my standards and my boundaries. I got really militant, and I am very much, I do take people at face value initially, but good old Maya Angelou, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. I am very much, yes, you've showed me, that's it. And the development of it was going from being that militant to being really kind to myself and putting everything I learned on that journey. And that was everything. It was The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, which people will either like or they'll hate, to neurolinguistic programming, to master key system, spirituality, looking at the chakras, looking at crystals, and by the same point, looking at life coaching, and building it and putting it all together inside this one thing that was his legacy. Because it's the least he deserved.
Yeah, it's I think, obviously I've met you after Mikey passed away, and then realizing, having heard your story previously, what you've gone through, and the individual you are today, present, he would be so proud of how far you've come personally. And I think it goes so, like, you use the word relief, and we use relief these days in terms of, thank God. It's such a different definition of what you've given, and it's so spot on, because we deal with death every day. Even if it's in my line of work or it's personal, and we mainly deal with it in an elderly sense of point, when and for me, I would say it's been, I think the right way to say it's like not a sheltered lifestyle, but I'm trying not to go back to saying that people's experience is all different. But when you look at a grandparent, for example, and having gone through that myself, in terms of it happening at home and being so close and having lived with them, but then use that word relief, because you see the amount of pain that they go through, and it's usually who they leave behind that are more in pain, because of it's the fact that you can't see them, or the fact that it hits you that they're not coming back. And it sort of brings on to, when you go through something like that, and you've been very open and about struggling after Mikey's death, and reaching a point where you felt unable to cope, like you did with the doctors. Why do you think it's so important for people to talk openly about these moments?
I think because of the bandying around of sayings like it's nothing like what you went through. It's the least helpful saying, because I heard that a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know that.
No.
I don't know that your grief over whatever your loss is didn't hurt and will not have a lasting effect as this does with me, because I will never go over it. I've not grieved. I know I haven't grieved. And sometimes I think it's because I've thrown myself into everything else. But I also, that grief keeps him close. But I really want people to be able to say, this is, I was going to leave swear. You know that I swear very frequently. I'm not going to do that. This is rubbish. This is rubbish. But is it worth? Yes, it's worth. Yes, it's worth. Everything's scarier in the dark. What we cultivate up here will up in the mind will make or break you. Holding space for people, as I said, is the best thing you can do. And we all need to have those safe spaces. I think, especially, you know what, in corporate world, I think there needs to be a drive towards holding companies accountable for the wellness of the people that are there for a majority of their lives. You know, it's pretty self-explanatory for longevity. And I know a lot of companies do. And you know, I took Yummy into schools and it went really well. And I really liked teaching Yummy in schools. I did not like working in a school. I have nothing but respect for teachers. I don't know how they do it. The pressure is immense. But if we could all just take a little bit of responsibility for the people we love and the people around us and the people who we rely on and the people who rely on us, you know, whether it's for a business or for whatever it is, we would make those conversations so much easier for people. And that feeling of lightness that comes along from a problem shared and things, and to shift away from this, oh, you need to get perspective. No, you don't.
No.
You need to get heard. You need to get heard. That's the important thing.
Yeah, because I mean, my next question was going to be, how can workplaces do a better job of recognizing when people may be struggling with burnout, grief, or mental health challenges? And I think where we've just gone through, a global pandemic, completely forgotten about, and then we've realized that working from home is possible. There's so many things that we've recognized, but again, working from home, that loneliness, not being able to speak with colleagues, see interaction. I'm very much someone who likes to be, face to face with people and interact. And, not having to see them through a screen or just not feel. I think, it's a really good point that workplaces should accommodate mental health much, bigger, because, of course, that employee is giving something to their company. They should feel valued, or it should be protected, because those who are in the office every day, you see them more than you see your own family.
Yeah.
So it becomes, do you think people sometimes underestimate the impact of like small acts of kindness and simply checking in with someone, regardless of who you are?
Of course we do. We do. You know, I loved a few years ago, I think it was Raymond Kemp who started the idea of asking somebody how they are twice. How are you? Yeah, I'm fine. Now, I will swear now, so I apologise.
Go for it.
But to me, the word fine means fucked up, insecure, neurotic, and empty. And my mum taught me that, who's one of the strongest people I know. She's an absolute powerhouse. But I avoid that word. And then you ask that person again to get the truth, you know. And in all honesty, in all the times that I've done that, I've uncovered something that deserves to have airing and deserves to be spoken about. Yeah, it is it is massively underestimated, because we're a society of the world that values achievement over fulfillment. We just do. Our school system is set up that way. Very quickly, you know, when we went and worked at school, my area was pastoral. It was well-being. It was what it was. And when people were made redundant, we were the first things to go. You know, and these baby little minds are not having the resources given to them to what is actually important, and that is being fulfilled. They are very different. I mean, we know lots of people that have achieved great things. I think we've said this before, achieved amazing things and had huge mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
When someone's fulfilled, the mental health doesn't seem to be as much of an issue.
Yeah.
You know.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as there are some amazing companies out there, it's important to remember your value to your company is as long as your notice period.
Yeah.
You know, because that's how long it will take for them to replace you. And that isn't personal to you.
No.
That's just business. If you went to your mum, or you went to someone who loved you, or myself, or someone else, and you said, okay, this Achilles-shaped hole is going to disappear in your life, how long would it take you to fill that hole? It's not going to happen. That's where your fulfillment is. That's where the important stuff actually is.
Mm.
But it's scary because we're bound to living cost of living crisis and all that, and that's completely understandable. But that doesn't change the fact that that is what it is.
No, absolutely. It highlights the bigger meanings of like how quickly things can get taken away from you as well, and the instant impact that you don't realize. You know, you think it's because I think what you mentioned earlier about Mikey, you didn't realize he was going to pass away.
No.
And then
No, we really didn't. We didn't. Not that day. The strange thing is, a year before, we had a consultant who said he's got about a year, and we refused to hear it. And they changed consultant, and that consultant, obviously, they consulted with each other, and no, we're going to do this. And he had a new treatment that was due to start, that was brand new, that had fairly good prognosis, and he was due to start that a couple of days after he passed away. My belief is he didn't want to play anymore. He didn't want to do it anymore.
No.
Which was my greatest gift, really. You know, him taking control of that situation at age 8. You know,
exactly.
And they do. Children do. They take control of that situation. They ask permission, because the very last thing he said to me was, "Can I go to heaven now?"
Okay. Yeah.
You know, so they do. They take control of that situation.
No, it just goes to show, like, sometimes children are much stronger than what we take them for.
Oh, he
yeah.
It's like, he met Dwayne Johnson.
Yes, I've seen the picture. Yeah.
I lost my mind. I lost my tiny mind. I mean, this person looked like he had stardust coming off him. He's just the best person. He went to so much effort. And he sat down, Mikey sat down and gone, "All right, mate, what are you giving up wrestling for? What's all that about? What's the matter?" And he was 5. It just was not in the slightest bit. And that was him. And if someone as cool as that can think I'm the best thing since sliced bread, I owe it to myself to look after myself, and in the best way that I possibly can. And I didn't. There were a lot of issues after he passed away, obviously. I mean, for myself, I know I'm hitting burnout because I have got an eating disorder. I became very, very badly bulimic a little while after he passed away. I do have that little bit of an alarm clock as well. So I do think that when I get that point, I know that is something that can be be highlighted as well. So that is something else that I had to go. You can't go over that. You've got to go through it.
Yeah.
But I had to get through as well. But yeah, it's
because it brings us on to a really nice segue of, you have to talk about self-empowerment.
Yeah.
What does that term actually mean to you?
Oh, for me, I think it's different for all people, because we are souls that are affected by a billion different things. So it can't be the same for 2 people. That's where real wellness, which is what we're going to do here, and it's what I did in Yummy. It's when you start asking yourself some really difficult questions and start making the difficult decisions. It's getting yourself out of a situation that you want to stay in, that your ego wants to stay in, but your soul knows is so. Situations where you're effectively telling yourself who you are. I don't know if that makes sense. If I was to give you a practical kind of example of that, staying in a friendship relationship kind of thing that you're not valued in, because it's easier to do that and you get a little part of something, is what is probably what you want to do when what you need to do is save yourself and save the way that you see yourself by getting away and going through that pain. For me, that was something I really needed to learn. And I am militant on that. That's why I'm saying I can be a little bit like, right, you've shown me who you are. I love everybody. I assume everyone is wonderful. And I don't assume just because they've done something that doesn't make me feel well and doesn't make me feel great and doesn't make me feel very great and like safe. I don't then assume that person's a terrible person, but I do know that that person can no longer be in my purview in any way at all. For me, that was my learning. It was the boundaries and the standards. And I think when we talked about doing wellness here, I said we can absolutely do it, because he knew about my history. The general manager knows me very well. I've known him for many years. He knew my history. He knew who I was before. In fact, I think he actually, when I first came here, because he didn't know me very well, because he'd known me as a teenager, he said, "I know her. She's feral." And I was like, "Yeah, that's probably a fair assumption of who I was." Learning to really adhere to my standards and boundaries shows me who I am, because what other people say to you won't necessarily destroy you too much, but the story you're telling yourself will always do a number on you.
Yeah.
So my boundaries and my standards are probably, and when I slip, and I do because I'm human, yeah, I do give myself a hard time, and then I've got to learn from it, not blame myself, but take a bit of responsibility, learn the lessons and move on. So when he said about doing wellness, I said, yeah, we can do the yoga, it will help. We can do the food, we can help. I'm nutritionally trained, I can do that. I can do the PT, I can do all the things you want me to do. I can do sound therapy, I can play crystal bowls, I can do all those beautiful things. I can talk about chakras. But if you're talking about wellness in its truest form, it is full of very difficult questions and a lot of reflection.
Yeah.
And reflection is hard work.
Absolutely. I think, from your, personal experience, for someone listening today, or who's going through a difficult period right now, for whatever it is, what is the most important thing that you would want them to know?
This too will pass. This too will pass. Tom Hanks said it, but I know he didn't get it from that. But it is something I live by. This too will pass. Please don't make a short-term decision, or a long-term resolution to a short-term problem. Please, you are loved by somebody, talk to that person and invest in you and what gives you joy.
Absolutely. Because, looking back, because that, I think, just brings us on to resilience.
Yeah.
That's the key word. Like, what would you say have been the biggest lessons that you've learned about resilience, and what does well-being mean to you today compared to what it meant to you 15 years ago, for example?
Well-being 15 years ago for me was waiting, thinking that I was going to be rescued by someone, that my worth was wrapped up in being chosen by somebody. Well-being was being the chosen one by whoever that was. It was a thing outside of myself that someone would give to me. And you think, Mikey got sick when I was in my early 30s, and that's a long time to have that belief. Very open about the fact that's probably how I ended up with 3 children with 3 different fathers. That is what happened, because I needed to be chosen. My worth was in who found me attractive. And so now the well-being means I feel useful. I am incredibly proud of the person that I am. I like me. There are some times when I go, you're just ridiculous, because I probably sound quite salient and quite fantastic right now, but you know as well as I do that there's never a day that goes past where I can't remember what I'm thinking, what I'm doing. I'm quite scatty, but I love that part of me. I'm good fun, but that well-being is that. And knowing as hard as it is that I'm actually going to really put myself first, really put myself first. And that doesn't look like what we are often told. You know, it's not Netflix and a king size dairy milk. I really like dairy milk, just so you know. It's keeping myself safe, keeping my soul safe.
Yeah.
Because I want to meet him.
Yeah.
I want to meet him. And when we're there, he won't care. He's not going to care. I mean, he'll probably have a go at me about wearing too much makeup because he hates that. He always did. But I'm going to say, do you know what, mate? See these people? You see these people? You see these people who just needed a little bit of light, who just needed a little bit, who needed to be heard, who needed that space because of you. Because of you, that is what they have.
Yeah, because I think it just goes to show what you said was really important. Well-being 15 years ago, wanting to be liked, wanting to be felt chosen. I mean, we could go into a whole other topic here, but the impact of social media on youngsters today.
That's what it is.
Not just youngsters, but professionals as well, I would say. Wanting to be liked, wanting to be well perceived, and it's not you. It's not truly yourself at all. You're putting on this show for whatever reason for someone else, just to feel some kind of validation. But if you don't feel validated in yourself, then what is the whole point? And that's what you've learned from your experience.
Choose yourself, so that if they choose you, that's an addition.
Yeah.
But if they don't, whoever they are, and that is when I did the International Women's Day, when I gave that speech, that was something that started that. That was, you know, you don't need people to choose you when you choose you. But we are fighting a battle against a life of choosing you by likes, of that simple choice, you know, where it's how simple it is to like something and have that person feel chosen in this superficial way.
Yeah.
So yeah, social media in that regard is not healthy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it just goes to show, like, as things evolve now that, my previous podcast I spoke about AI and the influence that it's had. And that's how that's very much scary for loads of people going into the industry at the moment. And, so that quick, simple AI thing of how can I deal with this? How can I and, you're getting answers from you, but you're not truly listening to yourself. And something that you mentioned earlier in the podcast was about the central nervous system giving us indications, your body giving you signs of slow down. Yeah. From a personal point of view, and with what I've gone through personally as well, with the knees and everything, everything that I've faced, it could be perfectly down to not having listened, not having slowed down, and because you're so career focused and the world is moving so fast, sometimes it takes things that are so drastic in your personal life for you to slow down.
And you don't want to be at that point.
No, exactly.
You don't want to get to that point.
It's a shame because why does it have to have something so drastic take place for you to then realise? And it brings us on to my final question, and it's something that we've touched on. Yeah. But if Mikey could see the work that you're doing now, helping people through your speaking, empowerment, yummy, coaching, the programs that you've done since, what do you think he would make of it?
I'd like to see, it's very glib to say that he'd be proud, but the thing is, he always was. He always was. And I do the things he loves seeing me do. So for me, that cause me joy, and the things that, because of the breathing, I think really is something, and that's singing. And he loves seeing me on stage. He just loved it. He loved all of that. And he kept saying, "You've got to do it again, do another show, do this, do that, do that." Standing in front of people and giving them joy was something that I loved to do, and he enjoyed to watch that. I am really hopeful that he's a bit too busy up there to be watching me, if I'm honest. I want him up there doing the things he couldn't do when he was here.
But yeah. Like me personally, having known you personally for so long as well, I just know how incredibly proud he would have been, or he would be, of everything that you're doing, because it's the changes and how you've taken on such a long battle basically from the first 6 months of Mikey passing away, and then it all coming into realization of what's actually taking place, but then focusing on yourself. And well that if we're not okay ourselves, we can't help anyone else, in terms of we always have to start with ourselves. Thank you so much
it's been my
for
pleasure.
joining me today. I think one of the key takeaways from this conversation is that burnout isn't necessarily a sign that we're doing something wrong.
No.
As we've discussed, it often happens to people who care deeply about what they do, what they're passionate about. The challenge is recognizing when we've been given too much of ourselves for too long without taking the time to recharge. What I found particularly interesting is that the idea that tackling burnout doesn't always require a complete life overhaul. Sometimes it's the simple things: moving more, creating space to reflect, setting healthier boundaries, reconnecting with our purposes, and paying attention to our own well-being. I think that can make the biggest difference. And it's global, because I mentioned, the start, how I came across Burnout with the article by Shruti, where she writes that the best teams and that the most successful people aren't the ones who never get tired. They're the ones who know when to pause, reset, and come back stronger. So if you're listening and you've been feeling overwhelmed, exhausted, or simply running on autopilot lately, hopefully today's conversation has given you a few ideas and a reminder that looking after yourself isn't a luxury, it's essential.
That's true. It's sustainable. Yeah.
Kelli, thank you so much for sharing your insights and your story today. It's just been phenomenal having you on. So is there anything that you would like to leave our listeners with today? One final message from you?
Yeah. There is nothing wrong with putting yourself first. There is nothing. It's necessary if you are going to experience really how beautiful life actually really is, and it really can be. And if you're not seeing that, please reach out. You are absolutely worth it, and don't give yourself a hard time if you feel burnt out. It's because you have given everything.
Perfect. I think that's a perfect way to leave it. So thank you to everyone for listening to the Just Thought You'd Like to Know podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please do follow us on our socials. Until next time, take care of yourselves, and thanks for listening.